A quick word on this week's sponsor, NordVPN, the fastest VPN on the planet. A VPN, or virtual private network, allows you to securely and safely use the internet with just a single click. With NordVPN, you can open up a world of new content from around the globe that may have been previously locked to you. Simply open the map, click on a location, and you'll be connected to the internet via that region in seconds. TV series and films only available to stream in certain regions are now at your fingertips. Use the Threat Protection Pro feature to protect against malware, even when not connected to a VPN. When watching YouTube from a public Wi-Fi, with NordVPN, you can secure against man-in-the-middle attacks, where what you believed was a public Wi-Fi is actually an imposter accessing your data. With Dark Web Monitor, NordVPN constantly scans hacking communities and alerts you if your account passwords are leaked. If you'd like to support the operations room and make use of their fantastic services, please visit nordvpn.com/opsroom to get the NordVPN 2-year plan with 4 extra months. That's nordvpn.com/opsroom, and it's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. At 10:30 a.m, a green light appears from the control tower authorizing the strike package to begin their mission. Under the command of Major Farajollah Baratpour in the lead aircraft, 10 F-4 Phantoms of the Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force begin their takeoff roll down the main runway at the 3rd Tactical Air Base near the Iranian city of Hamadan. As the aircraft lift off, one of the pilots, Major Nasser Kazemi, thinks back to their morning briefing when the equipment personnel handed out Colt 45 handguns and rounds to each man in the squadron. Kazemi asked for only 1 round for his Colt, surprising the technician who asked, "Really, just 1? "Yeah," Kazemi replied somberly, "just for myself if I'm captured." The date is the 4th of April 1981, and Iran is launching a daring surprise attack to destroy Saddam Hussein's air force on the ground. For the past 7 months, Iran has been fighting a desperate war against their western neighbour. On the 22nd of September 1980, Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein launched an unprovoked invasion against Iran, which was still dealing with the chaotic aftermath of the 1979 revolution. Although the Iraqi army initially held the advantage, the Iranian people have mobilized and rallied to the defense of their nation. The war is now at a stalemate as both sides look to land a knockout blow. In the early days of the war, the Iraqi Air Force dominated the skies over the battlefield, but the Iranian Air Force has gradually turned the tide. This is in part due to Iranian technological superiority. Iraq's Air Force are mostly obsolete Soviet models, while Iran's Air Force is composed of modern Western aircraft including F-4 Phantoms and F-14 Tomcats. Having wrestled away the strategic initiative, Iranian High Command decides that now is the time to permanently cripple their enemy's air capabilities. Because of heavy aviation losses suffered over the front line, Iraq has relocated much of its aircraft, including its ground attack and bomber fleet, far to the west at the H3 Air Base near the border with Jordan. The cluster of 3 airfields at H3 are tempting targets for the Iranian Air Force, but this will not be an easy mission. A direct route to the objective from Iran is around 1,000 miles, meaning the F-4 Phantoms would have to air-to-air refuel at least twice. However, this direct route would also take the aircraft directly over the heavy air defences near Baghdad, which would compromise secrecy. Due to these factors, the direct approach is ruled out while Iranian planners search for a new solution. Luckily, Iran has been getting valuable intelligence from a very unlikely ally, Israel. In preparation for their own imminent attack on Saddam's nuclear program, the Israelis have taken reconnaissance photographs of the H3 airbase. These are shared in order to aid Iran's strike. The two unlikely partners have determined that Iraq poses an existential threat to both nations and must be defeated. The enemy of my enemy is, temporarily, my friend. Thanks to Israeli intelligence, the Iranian planners have a clear picture of the SAM defences near H3 and are able to formulate a new, more sophisticated plan. The finalised route will have the Phantoms head northwest towards Urmia Lake to refuel before skirting Iraq's northern borders with Turkey and Syria. The strike aircraft will fly just 150 feet above ground level to avoid Iraqi radar before they reach the H3 airfields. The new route requires the pilots to fly their heavily laden aircraft over 2,000 miles, but this plan is a better bet to preserve the element of surprise. The Iraqi Air Force is far less active in the north, and top Iranian officials have convinced Syrian President Hafez al-Assad to turn a blind eye to the operation. At dawn on the 4th of April, 2 pairs of Iranian Tomcats had lifted off to patrol the airspace in northern Iraq and watch for enemy activity. Colonel Feridun Izzat-Zeta will supervise the operation from a command Boeing 747 orbiting in Syrian airspace, while a C-130 will monitor enemy radio traffic and act as a communications liaison between the raiders and Iranian Air Force headquarters. While the strike aircraft are on their way to their first refueling stop, 3 F-5 Tigers are sent on a diversionary mission to attack the Haraya Air Base and an oil refinery near Kirkuk in central Iraq. While this raid causes negligible damage, Iraqi attention is successfully diverted away from the planned route. The 10 Phantoms, including 2 reserve aircraft, reach Ormia Lake, where 2 Boeing 707s converted into aerial tankers are waiting for them. Even though they are in friendly territory, the Phantoms must take on fuel at just 150 feet to avoid radar detection. The low-altitude refueling is a test for both the strike aircraft pilots in their bombed-up Phantoms, as well as the 707 pilots. Colonel Luther Yadagarian later commented on the dangerous exercise. "It was the most difficult thing I ever did. Although the pilots have been trained to take on fuel at 22,000 feet, all of the Phantoms refuel without incident. The 2 reserve F-4s are sent back to base as the rest of the strike aircraft continue undetected into Iraqi airspace." Meanwhile, 2 Iranian Boeing 747s have lifted off from Damascus International Airport in Syria and are headed south. These aircraft have informed air traffic control that they are commercial flights from Damascus to Tehran, but in fact the 747s are converted tankers with a critical role to play in the mission. The next refueling location is in the western Iraqi desert, beyond the reach of aircraft flying from Iran. Instead, the large 747s flying from Damascus descend to less than 1,000 feet above the ground, disappearing from radar screens. They deviate from the international commercial air corridor, continuing south rather than turning east towards Iran. These tankers must rendezvous with the Phantoms in the Iraqi desert for the final refueling stop. If they are detected or cannot arrive on time, the mission will be aborted. The Phantoms are flying over the mountains which dominate Iraqi Kurdistan, each pilot straining to keep their aircraft below 150 feet, despite a full load of bombs. One pilot later remarked, "Flying over the snow-covered mountains at 150 feet felt like I was skiing." The mountains soon give way to flat and arid ground as the strike aircraft approach the western desert. However, the Iranian pilots are nervous about their next refueling stop. One recalled, "We didn't know if the tankers would be there. We weren't even sure if our fuel would be enough to take us to the rally point. If we missed our tankers, the entire mission would fail disastrously." Because they are flying in complete radio silence, the strike package will have no warning if the tankers have been forced to abort the mission. They can only hope the 747s will be waiting for them. When they arrive, the Iranian pilots are relieved to see the tankers orbiting above the desert. Another difficult refueling takes place. The 747s descend to 300 feet, while each Phantom takes on fuel 4 times. While this is taking place, the aircraft briefly appear on radar, seemingly compromising the attack. However, there is no response by the enemy, and no interceptors are scrambled to meet the strike package. It is revealed after the war that Iraqi radar operators believed these were Turkish aircraft patrolling the airspace. With the perilous refueling operation complete, the 747s will orbit to wait for the Phantoms to return after the attack, while the strike aircraft begin their final approach to the target area. There is no going back now. It is up to the Phantoms to complete the mission. With the H-3 airfields on the horizon, the strike package splits into 3 separate groups. 3 Phantoms will attack the northernmost airfield, while 2 other aircraft will bomb the southernmost. The last 3 Phantoms, led by Major Baratpour, will attack the central base, which is considered the main target. The 3 groups split off and increase speed, while the pilots watch for landmarks to guide them to the target. In the lead aircraft, Major Baratpour is informed that the Phantom's Inertial Navigation System, or INS, is defective. He asks his radio intercept officer, "Where does the INS think we are?" The navigator responds, "Sir, it shows we're in Tel Aviv." Both men laugh to break the tension as they bear down on the target. The attack begins at 5:15 am, with the main target being the large central airfield. The Iranians have caught the enemy completely by surprise, and there is no anti-aircraft fire to greet the attackers. The first priority is to ensure the Iraqi MiG-23 alert fighters can't take off. The three Phantoms scream over the two runways and drop parachute bombs which explode and crater the tarmac. Now realizing they are under attack, Iraqi anti-aircraft gunners respond with Zu-23 autocannons and portable SAMs, but the fire is scattered and ineffective. With the enemy fighters grounded, Major Baratpour leads his flight in another pass on the airfield, this time targeting the anti-aircraft defences. More bombs destroy many of the AA batteries, but most of them aren't even manned because the element of surprise has been so total. However, one of the F-4s piloted by Major Mahmoud Khazrai drops his munitions too close to the ground, and shrapnel damages the underside of his aircraft. He is forced to head west to make an emergency landing at a Syrian airbase, while the rest of the Phantoms prepare for another run. The northern and southern airfields are also hit by the attackers. The Iranians arrive to find 90% of the southern base occupied by helicopters, which are easy targets. First Lieutenant Ahmad Soleimani later said, "The Iraqis never dreamed we would raise such hell. Their defences had no chance to fire a single bullet or missile at us. 4 Mi-8 helicopters are hit and explode while another 11 are damaged." At the northern and central airfields, the Iranians now turn their attention to pounding the aircraft on the ground. The Phantoms drop cluster munitions on the parked MiG-23s, destroying 8 of the enemy fighters. Having expended their bombs, the pilots switch to their 20mm cannons and pepper the taxiways and hangar areas. Another 4 MiG-21 fighters and 5 Su-17 fighter bombers are destroyed, while the Iraqis still seem completely paralysed by the onslaught. Although their pilot training dictates the F-4s should only make one pass over the target area, the Iranians are determined to wreck as much of the Iraqi Air Force as possible. At the central airfield, 3 Antonov AN-12 transports are hit by cannon fire and erupt into flames. However, the real prize are the 6 Tu-16 and 10 Tu-22 strategic bombers, which make up the backbone of the Iraqi bomber force. Although they are kept in reinforced hangars, the Iranian pilots are able to destroy 3 Tu-16s and 2 Tu-22s by bombing. In this one raid, more than a quarter of the bombers at H3 are put out of commission. Major Baratpour decides to make one more pass before heading back to base. This time, the Phantoms target 2 Dassault Mirage F-1 fighters, which had just been delivered by the French government weeks earlier. Both of the Mirage fighters are destroyed, and Major Baratpour gives the order to return to base. The attack on H3 has lasted just 15 minutes. The 7 remaining Phantoms form up and head back to the refueling point in the western Iraqi desert. They will once again take on fuel from the tankers before heading back to the Iranian border. After their final refueling stop above Urmia Lake, the Phantoms land back at Hamadan and are greeted by a crowd of cheering base personnel. A television crew interviews First Lieutenant Ebrahim Pourdan, who excitedly shares details of the raid, but it is never broadcast because Pourdan forgot to use the Islamic greeting of "In the name of God." 2 days later, they are granted a personal audience with Ayatollah Khomeini, who shares his gratitude. The mission to bomb the H3 air bases is one of the most complicated as well as successful aerial strikes in military history. The pilots flew for 4 hours and 40 minutes while requiring 4 very low altitude refueling stops, which they had never trained for. In the 15 minutes they spent over H3, 48 Iraqi aircraft of all types have been destroyed, and a dozen more badly damaged. It is a decisive victory for the Iranian nation, which uses its newfound air superiority to push the Iraqi army back across the border before the end of 1981. 2 months later, the Israeli Air Force launches Operation Opera, a precision raid to destroy the Iraqi nuclear program south of Baghdad. Thanks in part to the stunning attack on H3, this attack is also a complete success. Saddam Hussein is embarrassed by these raids and orders the execution of dozens of air defense officers, including 6 senior officers at H3. Although the attack has demonstrated the skill and capability of the Iranian Air Force, the war will rage for another 7 years. More than 1 million soldiers and civilians will be killed before the bloodshed of the Iran-Iraq war finally ends. If you'd like to learn more about why the Iran-Iraq war took place, head over to this video on our sister channel The Intel Report via the video end card. Thanks again to our amazing patrons whose support enables us to make these videos. Thank you to all our new patrons who joined recently, and a special thanks to our patron of the week, Tim Story. Each week we choose our favourite Patreon comments to shout out. This week, our Kasha Lethal says, "Air-to-air refueling is a very difficult skill to learn and accomplish at 20,000 feet. Doing it at 150 feet above the ground is unbelievable. The skill of those pilots is awe-inspiring. If you'd like to support us, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/The Operations Room and get access to exclusive benefits such as early access to videos, ad and sponsor free. We'd love to have you as part of our community and really appreciate your support.